What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay Hatch, Creative Space Podcast. We are here at the Sound Collective NYC, getting back into these interviews, getting behind the scenes. Today, we have somebody who I've been trying to get in touch with for the longest. It gets a little crazy, through pandemic and just lives, and everybody has their own agenda, but we're here today to do this. This is my guy. He used to be the editor-in-chief over at Scratch Magazine. He's always been that content person that you always needed in your corner. Always been super supportive. Just an all-around good guy, man. Good guy gang. Get up for my brother, Jerry Barrow. What's up, Jerry? How you doing? Everything good?
Thank you, Hatch. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you making some time out for me.
Sure.
One of the first questions I always ask, because I just like to get this out of the way, is if you were going to explain to somebody what you do, what would it be?
Okay. Currently, I'm the head of digital content for Hot 97 and WBLS. So, in a nutshell, I run both of the websites and all of the social. What that means is I try to make sure that my team has everything they need to do their jobs well. Okay. So from everything you see posted on our Instagram, our TikToks, the website, the YouTube channel, I make sure that those people are in place to do what they have to do. Sometimes I am literally uploading to Instagram, but not all the time. It's usually someone on my team who's doing it. And I have to make sure that, I'm communicating what the sales team needs and what the on-air folks need. They'll send me, hey, Jerry, I just did this interview. Can you get this up on the site? And da-da-da-da-da. Right. So that's the quick answer.
That's the quick answer. So you orchestrate, you communicate.
Yeah.
You sometimes have to be hands-on with it.
Sometimes that's the benefit of having been doing this for so long, because my team can look at me and say, hey, he's at least done this. I started out writing, over 20 years, then I've, learned how to shoot video. I learned how to, do podcasting, social marketing, all of that. I've had to do it. So I'm not one of, a manager that you're going to say, oh, well, I know how to do my job better than my manager. Mind you, my team knows how to do things better than me, but at least I know what I'm talking about when I tell them, hey, you should do this edit is off, this doesn't look right, because I've done it. I know what looks right. And then particularly with editorial, knowing what works, what's gonna get attention, what's not gonna get attention. Hey, we should do this though. I'm like, maybe not, because I don't think people are gonna really care that much. Or, we should be doing this. And then they see, oh wow, people really did, So I try to use the experience that I've had to educate, but also to help my team focus. And also manage expectations, because I know how long it takes to do something. Like if you're a writer and you're telling me, I'm still working on this piece, I'm like, no, you're not, because I know how long it takes. I've been there. I know how long it takes to take something from TMZ and do a write around and crop a picture and all that jazz, putting in links. So but that also means I know how much it's worth. That's what I try to communicate up to my bosses. They're like, well, we got to do this, that, and the third. We need this many stories. I'm like, how much should we pay people? I'm like, well, this is how much work it takes. And I know from personal experience how much work it is. We should be paying at least this much to make it worth their while. So it's not always about, making sure people aren't, getting over, so to speak, but I'm trying to advocate for you too. I tell this to my team all the time. Like, I'm here to advocate for you as much as possible to get what you need, but got to be realistic sometimes too.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You're able to gauge the workload versus the amount of time it's going to take and what the pay should be. At least these guys also know what they're getting into, right? Because I'm sure other jobs take longer than others and whatnot. For those that are watching right now, can you give everybody like a little just history line of how you kind of got started in journalism / music? And we'll maybe jump in a little bit and answer a couple questions.
I'll try to give you the most succinct version. I've been writing since 1997. Okay. So I started out writing in college. I went to Wesleyan University, graduated in 96. I ran a campus magazine called The Ankh. I was the editor-in-chief of that. That's where I wrote my first music review for Lords of the Underground. Here come the Lords.
Let's get it.
And that's where I got my first taste of what it's like to, run a magazine, put it together. I learned how to use Quark Express
Okay.
to put
you're going back. Yeah, you're going back now.
That's what I want y'all to understand how far back this goes, because we were doing layouts like physical, and then like my senior year, they were like, well, we could do it digitally if you want, instead of doing the paper layouts. I'm like, how do we do that? And I taught myself Quark Express and put out the magazine that way. But after college, I was teaching briefly, and I didn't really take to that. I was teaching first graders in New Jersey. But a good friend of mine, mentor and classmate, Smokey Fontaine, was running Trace magazine, and I had expressed to him that I wanted to write. And he said, well, I can't pay you, but I can get you some clips. So back then, before everybody could just put up their own blog or put up their own Instagram page, you had to show an editor that you could write and be edited, and so you had to have clips to show that what you'd done before. So I said, all right. So the first, while I was on Easter break, while I was teaching, he said, I want you to go interview this guy named Tracy Lee at the Shark Bar. I know I'm taking people way, way back.
You need to learn. You need to learn.
So this was an interesting time for hip hop and media, because this is post Biggie, and that's kind of like the line of demarcation for me when it comes to like hip hop journalism. It's pre Biggie and post Biggie, post Biggie being killed, because that group, those folks, the Selwyn Hineses and the Mimi Valdezes and the Smokies and everybody, I know I'm misforgetting names, don't kill me, but all those folks were the folks I read and looked up to. And then I came in, I'm the next class, like right after, right in 97. I'm at the Hit Factory listening to No Way Out to write a review, with Diddy and D-Dot sitting there playing it for me. I'm doing all this stuff for Smokey at Trace. And well, I skipped ahead a little bit. So I did the interview with Tracy Lee, and I was like, yo, this is what I want to do. So I went back to my principal and said, hey, this is going to be my first and last year. I can't, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. Yeah. I know what I want to do. Once I saw my name, my byline underneath that article, I said, no, this is what I want to do. So did a lot of free writing, took the clips from Trace, and then one of my good friends knew someone who knew someone at Beatdown magazine. Shout out to Trent and Haji. Trent is still out there. Trent, my guy, still got the bylines.
Beatdown magazine alone.
Yeah, Trent's still out there with the XXL bylines. I don't know how he does it, but God bless him. Met them, got some more clips. I was supposed to get paid, and I always tease Haji about this to this day. I was supposed to get paid, never got paid, but I got clips. I interviewed Smith & Wesson and a bunch of other people I forget.
So would you say clips are like your credits?
Credits, absolutely, absolutely. Right. So this was my proof.
Right.
I can write and actually be edited. There's someone else trusted me to do this interview and do this work. So did the writing for Beatdown, did the writing for Trace, and then as it happens, Smokey gets job at the Source magazine, and I'm like that prodigal son. He gave them, I forget which one it was, where they gave them the stuff. He said, "What are you going to do with this?" He gave them the money, or gave them to turn this into something for me and come back. So I took all those clips and all those opportunities, and I said, "Okay, I'm here. This is what I've done. Can I finally get paid now?" And he's like, "All right, bet. I got something for you." So I want you to go interview this kid. His song just got added to MTV rotations. His name is Eminem. And I'm like, word? Okay, bet.
That's how you didn't realize how.
Of course not.
Realize how big this is.
Of course not. Because the mic check section is the new artist section in the Source. And I go to the label, I meet Paul Rosenberg, meet M, we talk for like an hour about rap and battle rap and South Park and crazy thing. I found that tape. I still have that tape.
Wow. The
original interview tape on a TDK. I found that the other day from 1999. And that was my first published clip in the Source, was the mic check of Eminem. And then Smoke just started assigning me more of those. I did Memphis Bleaks, Rozelle, so many. So that's how I got my foot in the door at the Source. And I had applied for an actual job and didn't get it the first time.
Okay.
It was so they still clown me to this day. Shout out Carlito Rodriguez. I showed up in a suit because I learned, when you interview for something, you wear a suit. You're supposed to look proper.
Common sense. Yeah.
I rolled up in the source with my suit, and I looked like the biggest cornball.
They got Air Force One dunks on, hats on backwards.
Oh my God! So I didn't get it, but they liked my writing, so I still got to write, and then eventually a spot did open up. I think Aaliyah King had left. Shout out to Aaliyah King, and Kim Osario was like, "Yo, you come on board," and that was my first paid staff writing gig as associate music editor of The Source. This was 2002, and that year was so huge for me because that was the year I got married in 2000. My wife was pregnant with our son. We bought our house, and I got my master's degree from Pace.
Wow!
All that year, and I started my job at The Source. All 2002 was like everything. it was stacked. I'll never forget being in closings at The Source and my very pregnant wife rolling up because she didn't understand the business. Closing,
sure.
So anybody understands magazine closings, you have no life. You are there for the entire night. You are there to get the publication to the printer. You are there. You are not going home. You are waiting for the blue lines to come around. And my wife was like, "Why are you still at work? You still at work?" I'm like, "Babe, I'm still." She didn't believe me. She rolled up and she was like, "Oh, damn, he really is still at work."
Right. Oh, this is real. Yeah.
This is real. He's really still here. So that was a good time. Got a lot of great experience. Got edited great. Eric Parker, Jermaine Hall, Kim, they edited the hell out of me. Just made me a better writer, which made me a better editor. And I was able to get people opportunities there. Our boy Brandon Peters will tell you, like, we got him. I signed him his first cover story when they did the New South with Crusher and all those folks. I had a lot of good times at The Source. It did get crazy because this was in the midst of the Source Eminem beef.
Yeah, Benzino
popped off right when I was like maybe 6 months in. I was like, damn. Because when I first got there, we were on a run. Like they had just dropped a Rockefeller cover, and then
the Dre cover came out too in that time period.
No, Dre was before, maybe same year, but maybe a few months before.
Okay.
But it was like it was like Rock, Murder Inc., Lil' Kim. It was like back to back. The Source was just going boom, 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 boom. It was like, yeah, we're killing them.
Yeah.
And then the Eminem shit came in and just took all the air out of the room. And yeah, that was the beginning of the end of my time there. I did get to do a lot of good work, but eventually, Scratch came calling.
Now, was Scratch already out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scratch was already out. The first editor had left. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank because I'm looking at his face because we recently worked together at Warner Music Group. I'm going to remember it before I leave. I apologize, but he's a really good dude. And that was the crazy part is people tried to pit us against each other when I started. And it was just like, I don't even know this guy. Why do people think that I'm supposed to dislike him? And, it was challenging because they were trying to get more newsstand growth. They were trying to expand the brand, and you had the very dedicated hardcore readership who was like, we only want producers. But what they did with the first 6 or 7 covers is they got producers who were also rappers. So it was like Timbaland, Kanye, Pharrell, Dre, Eminem, so yes, they're producers, but they're also artists.
Yeah, you gotta give it to them slowly.
Yeah, so it wasn't just like, they were purely producers, but then here I came in, first issue, I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, we have a Just Blaze feature? Just Blaze should be on the cover. And this was me being a super Just Blaze fan, and because at that year, this was what, 2005 or whatever, you couldn't tell, Just Blaze was everywhere.
Everywhere.
I had interviewed him, and I did a feature on him when I was at The Source. from Beat Society, when he was there one night, and it was him, Jake One, and I forget who else. I wrote about it. If you have the issue of The Source, I think is the one with Dr. Dre, Flame, Running Through the Flames, and Just is sitting on his knees, and it's got a floating turntable. That was the first time that I'd heard the name Jay Electronica. Just Blaze, I'd interviewed Just Blaze at Baseline, and he was like, yeah, I got this kid, Jay Electronica, he's about to be the next shit. This is how far back this is, right? So I had done that feature at The Source, so when I got the scratch, I was like, well, we gotta put him on the cover if this is the producer Bible. So my bosses at Harris reluctantly let me do it, but then the higher ups were just like, you put the drummer on the cover. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the point. This is supposed to be a producer bag, right? Mm-hmm. So we got a little back and forth there, and then
he was getting the credit regardless of what was going on.
right.
He was the guy's name you all heard and wanted to know.
Exactly. So, but for them, he wasn't a rap. He wasn't also an artist.
I got you.
So in their mind, it was a risk. So I think I followed up Just Blaze with Swizz and Jermaine Dupri, and then they came to me like, listen, we need more. We need to push the needle. We need to get a rapper on the cover. I'm like, all right. So if I have to do this, if I have to compromise, how can I do this in a way that still maintains my integrity, but still?
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
So then I said. I want Primo on the cover. How am I gonna get Primo on the cover and make the bosses happy? So I asked Preem's people, like, yo, would you be down if we did a cover with Primo and Nas, if I could make that happen? And they were like, yeah. And the reason why I thought of Nas is because I'd interviewed Nas for The Source, and I was cool with his publicist at Columbia at the time, Tony Ferguson. And so I did the Nas cover I did was the black and white one, which was like the mea culpa after he had burned the Source and did all that stuff. Yeah. He came back and it was kind of like the makeup cover. That was fun. That was the one where I drove around with Nas and he was listening to the Alchemist beat tape. And that's the one where I was sitting in the back and he's playing these beats and he's just skipping by and I'm like, he's not, I'm like, you don't want that? You don't want that? You don't want that? So I might have been indirectly responsible for spreading the notion that Nas can't pick beats. Indirectly, like not intentionally, but I definitely was like, how you listening to this Alchemist Beat CD and not finding one thing that you like? Yeah. But had a great interview with him. And so from that interview, again, I was like, okay, can we get Nas and Primo?
Yeah.
And then, I didn't have the luxury of waiting until there was a project out because, Double XL's literally down the block, down the hall, Source is across the street. So they're gonna get first dibs on when someone has an official project. So I had to think outside the box. And I just said, yo, would y'all be down to do this? And they were like, bet. So this was me going against everything the industry tells you to do. The magazines are part of the marketing for the album.
Right.
Once the album, how it works, once the album is confirmed, the publicist hits you up. We have this album coming in September. Would you like to have such and such for the cover? And you say yay or nay, and everybody's budgets are opened up, all that. This wasn't the case. This was all like, I had to call in favors. My homegirl Arlene, she's like, I'll style it. So she got the army jacket for Nas and all the other clothes. And, we at headquarters. And Nas was there before Primo was. He was game. Like he was ready to go. So we did the shoot there at D&D/headquarters, iconic photo shoot. And then after we did the shoot, Hove and Nas reconciled.
Right, okay.
At I forget which show.
Concert.
Yeah. So this was between us doing the interview and us going to print. So I hit up Tony like, yo, I need to get a quote from Nas about this. And he's like, sure. So we were the first magazine to get him talking about that reconciliation. It was just providence. It was just timing.
It all
just happened in the divine timing. but an actual project album never came about. And 18 years later, people are still in my mentions on Twitter. This is your fault. And then, of course, fast forward to Nas last year saying, album with Primo might actually happen. And I'm like, really? And then they actually did a song earlier this year. So I'm still hoping, crossing fingers. I'm trying to think, it was probably not the ideal place, but Primo is just so cool. Recently at Mr. C's memorial, I ran into him, and I think the day before, I think the song or the picture or something had just dropped. I just looked at him and said, "Oh, so is this finally happening?" He's like, "I'm not saying nothing until it's actually done. Until it's done, I'm not saying." I was like, "I got you. I respect it." So as soon, hopefully, if that gets done, I'll get to talk to both of them and bring everything full circle.
That's dope.
So yeah, that was so that was the beginning of the end of the print run, the mag run.
Well, I wanted to dive in a little bit because I don't, obviously I used to do iStandard. I've always been an advocate for the new producer.
Yeah,
and it always seemed like the producer wave. Like, people didn't always know who the producer was.
Yeah.
Right? You asked the average person on the street, hey, who produced New York State of Mind for Alicia Keys and Jay-Z? Nobody knows the answer, right? Like, normally. So having a platform like ours, having a magazine that you were running, how important was it for you, for just that portion of it? How important was it for you to give these guys this platform, this light, this identity, the story? How important was it for you?
It was one of the first things I did when I started Scratch. I started Hydrosonics, which was the unsigned hype for producers. It was automatically the first thing. I was like, okay, we've got this pile of CDs from producers.
What are we doing?
What are we gonna do with these? So, and to this day, shout out my man King Karnov. He was the first. He was the first Hydrosonics producer we put on, and this brother he's doing amazing things for a lot of people. Making a lot of dope beats. He still texts me. He's still, matter of fact, when I started my podcast, I asked him, I need some theme music for my intro. He was like, got you. Gave me a beat. Didn't even, no money, no nothing. So yeah, that was absolutely something that was, near and dear to me and the team. They were excited. Like, it was not a chore. We all went through those beat CDs and was like, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this do? What do you think of that do? They liked it. Like, shout out to Liz and Jesus. They're both at Tidal now. They've been there for a while, and we would have fun listening to those beat CDs. Sure. And funny enough, I remember back then I used to talk to Fat Man Scoop a lot, and I had put him on into Apple Juice Kid. Shout out Apple Juice Kid.
It's crazy.
And he was like, that African dance hall, it was crazy. Because I went down to a beat battle, I think in Virginia.
Yeah.
At Sam Ash.
That's how we actually started this conversation.
Okay.
That was us talking, saying, oh yeah, but it was about that post.
Oh, right.
I said to you, I was like, man, they don't do it like that anymore.
Oh my, those are good times. But Apple Juice Kid, he dropped that beat and the whole freaking room erupted. So I said, Scoop, you gotta hear this. And Scoop was like, yo. So at one point we were feeding out, we were like pseudo A&R in Scoop's project, and he would make me laugh. He's like, Jerry, I had some CDs. There's a bunch of CDs on the West Side Highway right now. It's a lot of trash. He was just throwing them out.
It's so funny because Scoop was like super active at that point, because he used to come to the events in New York and he'd literally just lean up against the wall. Yep. We linked, same thing. He was always asking me for more beats from everybody. Yep. It's crazy. And actually, what the funny thing is, circle back to last week, I just signed Apple Juice to my sync library. So now he's signed to me, giving me music for like sync projects.
Nice.
Film and TV.
Nice.
So after how many years, we're working together again.
Please give me
Absolutely.
my best. Andre Torres, thank you, brother. I'm so sorry, brother. He was the editor-in-chief of Scratch before me.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So, but we linked up when we were at Warner Music Group a few years ago, and he gave me some vinyl, took a picture and all that shit. So, Yeah, so that was the new artist focus was absolutely, new producers specifically was something that I was really, and I used to go to all those beat battles. Remember, everybody talks about Fight Club, Beat Club, was popping too. I wanted to hear who the new, sound makers were. So yeah, that was definitely, even recently, K Salam had me listening to his class. He's teaching a class, I think, was it NYU? He had a bunch of new young people, college students making beats, and had me listening to their beats. Like, so I will always make time for that.
Yeah, that's great. So let's fast forward a little bit to what's going on now.
Okay.
We didn't really get a chance to talk too much about Hot 97 and BLS and whatnot. So give us an insight to what you kind of do on a day-to-day basis.
It's so different now. It's so much more administrative. I really wish I missed the days when I was running around trying to, find people for covers and, doing interviews and writing and trying to find that dope turn of phrase that would, make people go, "Oh, Jay, that's dope." Have Daytwan texting me, "Yo, Jay," These days it's really, I love Hot 97 and WBLS. I grew up on both of those stations, so the opportunity to work there was something I don't take for granted. But it's a very different place. It's a very different company from the one I grew up with, because even when I was running, I didn't talk about this here, but I helped launch the site called the Urban Daily for Radio 1. So that we were kind of the AP for all of the radio station sites in Radio 1's, catalog across the country. So when we published something on the Urban Daily, it went to Hot 107.9 and the Philly station, So I knew what it meant to try to, make news for radio.
Yeah.
Because the radio, the jocks would literally read our stuff. Oh, today,
Okay.
So 2017, I started BT, pivoted just to doing film coverage. So I'm going to the Black Panther junket and interviewing Lupita and Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, having a ball doing all that stuff. But then 2020 comes and, they let a whole bunch of us off. That's when I started my podcast, Fathers Who Bother. And then that gave me another opportunity to get back to interviewing again and talking to my heroes, producers, rap, had Apollo Brown, Sky Zoo, Torre, shout out all y'all, Mickey Fax, and then that Royce. So every rapper that I had any kind of contact with, this is when you find out who really messes with you. When you're ready to launch your own thing, and they don't know what the numbers are, you're just getting started. Fonte, because I came to him with the idea years ago. I said, Fonte, I want to do this podcast about fatherhood, but I want to call it Diary of a Mad Black Daddy because of the Little Brother skit. He's like, say less, go ahead. And then I came back around and I said, yo, I'm actually going to do it now, but I'm calling it Fathers Who Bother. Would you be my first guest? And he was like, say less. So that I did that, Smith and Wesson. I had a ball doing it, but unfortunately, it wasn't paying the bills, and once people were able to go back outside, it got harder and harder to book people.
Get their attention.
So not even just get their attention, but get their time, because it was easy to book them when everybody was in the house. Nobody's going anywhere. Right. I hit up Eric Roberson, hey, bro, what you doing? Nothing, I'm just here in the house with my kids. So
let me check my schedule.
Right,
I'm good.
I'm good. But once people started going back outside, because everybody asked me, why'd you stop doing the podcast? It was two things. It was I needed a job, and people just weren't as available. It was harder to book, and I was doing it all by myself. Hip Hop DX came calling, started consulting for them, and then after a couple of years, I was just like, this isn't a good fit for me. And just by providence, I knew some folks who were like, hey, they might need some content guidance for Hot and BLS. And so now I'm just trying to both support everything on air digitally, but I want to reestablish, because the digital team did have its own identity and its own, because I know people who ran the digital team before. And they just kind of got away from that because they just didn't have the resources. And it just comes back to that, like, companies have to really commit to giving the resources for people to do things, and it's people. A lot of those resources are human resources.
Yeah.
It's not enough just to say, okay, we have 2 people working on the website. Like, no, if you want people to go out and cover all these events, you want people to go,
social media
posting, because they had the team, they had them writing and then social media and then posting to YouTube. I'm like, no, we need one social media person who can
just do that.
And that was my first hire. Great dude. Shout out to Jordan. But even he's starting to get overwhelmed now because they're like, oh, we have a social person. No, you can do this and then this and then this and then this. I'm like,
oh, he needs an intern.
I'm like, time out. He dead ass. He needs at the very least needs an intern. They all need interns. The video team needs interns. I need an intern. We all need help, but there's just no resources for it. So I'm just trying to manage and make everybody make great things, support, but still try to help the digital department forge its own identity within the radio stations right now.
Okay. Last question or two. What in a perfect world for you, perfect content world for you, where do you see yourself in this new era of media and journalism?
Wow. I don't know if there's a perfect world for media right now. And it's because when you look at the numbers every day, part of my job is to look at the numbers every day. What stories are popping? And it's just the worst of the world gets all the attention.
Right.
Someone dies, someone gets in a fight, someone hates somebody.
I know we talked about it before.
It's so hard to just, and it goes against, I'm a storyteller. People ask me, what do I do for a living? Whether it's writing, video, social, whatever, beats, podcasts, I'm interested in getting a good story at the end of the day. But it's harder and harder to get the time to tell a good story and get people's attention for a good story that doesn't involve the worst of humanity. They're interested in the story if someone got shot. They're interested in the story if someone did somebody wrong or if they've got tea. You know what I'm saying? So you've got a lot of personalities out here. I don't know how they've become important to people simply because they're willing to talk about other people.
Yeah.
Not because they've done anything important, but because they're willing to comment on other people and they get elevated to the status. So now such and such says something every time something happens, it becomes a story. And that's really deflating to me as a creative.
Yeah.
That's really,
that makes a lot of sense.
when I the last really good experience I remember having as a journalist was hanging out with Rock Ness for his last album. I did it for Vibe magazine. We went to the now gone Sean Price mural, sat outside there and just interviewed him. And it reminded me one of my first interviews with Cameron. One of my first interviews with Cameron for The Source. I hung out with him and Jim Jones in Harlem. And it was during the NBA playoffs. We were outside, and you just got the life of Harlem was just walking by. Girls was jumping out of cars trying to rap for Cam. Dudes was walking by trying to sell pit bull puppies. It was crazy. And he had
that's Harlem for you.
And he had the liquor store. So we sipping drinks out of the Sprite bottle so the cops don't mess with us. That was life. That was color. That was. And the last time I had that feeling was hanging out with Rock. We were on the corner, people were coming up, yo, Rock, I know you from high school, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then we went to his projects, hotboxing in my car. He's telling me stories about his elementary school across the street. He's telling me about how he met Steele and all this stuff. So actually, to answer your question, what I really want to do, I really want to do a documentary. Okay. Or several documentaries, because I feel like it's the last venue or the last way that people are able to tell hip hop story in a way that people pay attention to. Yeah. They don't necessarily read articles the way they used to. They don't even, unless it's somebody saying something wild like Cat Williams, they're not even watching interviews like they used to.
Right.
But a documentary where you can actually sit and talk to people about their history. And there's so much history that still hasn't been told from hip hop that I definitely feel like I got a couple documentaries in me So it's just, but it comes down to who can I get the bankroll? And monetization is the key. Because now interaction with artists is different. You go to somebody, they say, I want to do a documentary on you. So where's my check? You know, where's...
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have a lot of footage from the scratch days?
No.
No.
I wish. Scratch days was pre-iPhone. So I barely even have photos from the scratch days. You know, all of that is still up in here or what's in the mag. I wish I had video footage, but that was one of the things I was pushing at the time, the magazine folks to say, digital is where it's at, the website. So this is the funny thing with Scratch. It was a bi-monthly publication, right? We had the website, but it wasn't really doing anything. And I said, we have all this, I think the first time we interviewed RZA, and I had all this extra stuff from the transcript. I said, just put it on the blog, put it on the website. They ate it up because it was something they couldn't get in the magazine, but it was more extra, all the things that couldn't fit into the word count. There's no word count on the internet. So I was trying to tell them, y'all need to pivot to the internet. This is where the audience is. They want this.
Right.
But they're magazine guys, and all they're worried about is newsstand. And then by the time they came around, I think when SK took over the site, he was trying to build up the Scratch blog. By then, I think it was probably too late, but that was something, even the Source, I was like, yo, y'all have the source.com, but y'all are not really using it to the best of its ability because you have archives going 20 years. Why isn't this on mine? Why is it when I Google 5 mics, I want a list of all the 5 mic albums. The source.com should be the first thing that comes up, and there should be a link to every 5 mic album review. That's money being thrown away right now. Yes, I'm talking to you, Londell. That's money being thrown away because people want that information, but the source isn't the place they're getting it from. And I've been told there are people who have archival stuff from this source that they're kind of holding hostage. People that have tapes or whatever. You know. But I would love to do documentaries, but archives are which goes hand in hand.
Right.
I got into this to document our culture and our music, and I still want to document our culture and our music because not just because I think it has value inherently, it does have monetary value. The same way they just got rid of MTV News. Like, why didn't you license that archive? Like, why? That's money that you threw away because people are still. You know, remember LexisNexis back in the day? People searching for shit. That you could have been Hip Music's LexisNexis archive, charge people $1 a month or whatever it is to access it. But they don't think that way. They're thinking we're paying server costs and we got to turn a profit right now. And blah 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 blah. So that's the long answer.
Well, I wish we had 3 hours out. I know we cover a lot more, but I appreciate your time, brother.
Of course, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you.
No doubt. Give everybody your social or any information you'd like to give out.
I'm at JL Barrow everywhere. Threads. Fine. I post there more now. I'm not on Twitter as much. Yeah, I still call it Twitter. Fuck Elon Musk. Instagram, same thing. Even though my Instagram and TikTok are on private because I was getting spammed so much and people trying to get at me and reproducing my page trying to scam other people. Oh my God, if we have time. People, please stop sending people money to post on websites and blogs. Because people are out there imitating writers and they're taking your money. No reputable writer is taking money from you for an article. Stop sending your $50 or $100 to someone claiming to be me or Rob Martman or Chuck Creekmur or Dayton Thomas. We are not going to ask you for money to post the article, do an interview with you. So please stop sending money to these scammers who have cloned our Instagrams and pretending to be us and hitting you up saying, hey, I heard your beats. I heard your song, your music. Let's work. Send me $100. It's a scam. Stop. Don't give them any money. Please stop doing this. So that's why I had to make my IG private because they were driving me crazy. But please, this is a PSA.
Yeah.
Because I know people, because I got dudes emailing me still saying, hey, I sent this dude money saying he was you. I'm like, sorry, bro, that wasn't me. you got God. So please stop. I know it's part of it is desperation because, like we were saying, new artists are looking for an outlet, but the outlets are not giving money or not giving attention to new artists. So they feel like I got to pay my way in. That's not the way. It's not. So we're kind of creating this black market, but we don't have the resources to highlight new artists the way we used to. So it's but don't fall for the scams, please.
Yeah. Don't fall for the scams for sure. Happen every day.
Every day.
Had my pages cloned quite a few times myself.
Exactly.
Anyway, appreciate my man, Jerry Barrow. We in the building. Creative Space Podcast, Sound Collective NYC. Podcast comes out every 2 weeks on our YouTube page, Creative Space. Come check us out, man. Behind the scenes.
Peace.
Peace.